All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to YouTube Model Builders Tuesday night presentation. We have a great pleasure of having Bob Olson of DaBobs in Scale Man Cave. I'm Dude Lindler from Crooked Fingers Railroad, and tonight's presentation is shelf layout construction, benchwork, how-tos, and ideas. Just wanted to let everybody know that we got a big build contest going on, and so we need to get everybody in there to sign up for that. Go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. All the details are there, and they got a lot of really cool prizes. There is, if you go to imrro.com on YouTube channels, go to his channel. That's Eric Hall, and he has two promotional videos for this big build. One of them tells you exactly what it's all about, and then the other one shows you how to do a video. YouTube Model Builders is a proud sponsor of eMags, Hangouts, and Live Show. The eMag is bi-monthly. July issue is out. If you go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com, you can sign up for a direct link to be emailed to you, so you can go right to. There's a lot of cool stuff. This last issue was on the younger generation of modeling. A lot of cool stuff in that, and it's absolutely free. The live show is every month. We just got done doing our July show. It was a really good turnout. Had a lot of fun. I was involved in that, and so was Barry. Bill had stepped out for the weekend. He had some other prior engagements. So come and see our monthly live shows. And our Tuesday night and Thursday night hangout presentations. The presentations are every Tuesday, which are they bring in a host or a guest comes in and they do a presentation on certain things, anywhere from scenery to like what Bob's doing about shelf layouts. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. And the Thursday night with Johnny Reb, that is now recorded, so that if you cannot make it, you can go back into YouTube Model Builders on the YouTube channel and watch it. It will be recorded, and everything will be there. And our YouTube Model Builders, the team, of course, Mike Phillips is out for a little while right now. We don't know what's going on too much with him. I know that it was a personal matter. Then we got William Graham and Barry. They both do the live show. Barry's the IT. So that's all of our team members right there. And with further ado, I am going to transfer it over to Bob, and we'll go ahead and get started with our tonight's presentation.
Well, thanks, Dude. If you guys don't know who I am by now, I'm Bob from DaBobs and Scale Man Cave. I'm currently in the Man Cave. It's kind of a mess because I'm doing guy stuff in the Man Cave, but building my trestle nowadays, and I've been making myself a shelf layout a little bit up here. If you want to see it, it's right up there on the ceiling, and we're going to talk about how to make stuff like that. Everybody kind of knows what a shelf is. You know, you put some brackets on the wall, you hang a board across, a couple of them, you got yourself a shelf to put some knickknacks and curio stuff, you know, some Elvis plates or whatever you want to put up on your shelf. But we want to put model railroads up there. So how do you go about doing that, especially if you have, maybe G scale, O scale, HO, you got something that's heavy, you got something that's wide, you know, how do you mount it? You know, how do people tend to gravitate toward one way of doing it versus another way of doing it? So we're going to kind of go through some of those and give you some examples of what is a shelf layout. So I'm going to present this screen here. Okay, everybody can see that? Okay. Well, how to build a shelf layout. Well, what is a shelf layout? It is basically anything that is not a table, because a table is attached to an immovable object like a wall that extends perpendicular to the wall and is suspended by brackets or other support, but does not touch the floor for support. Okay? That would be a shelf if it doesn't have any visible support to the floor. Usually attached to the wall. You know, if you have like a peninsula or something like that, that's usually a man-made wall, and it doesn't really consider, in my definition anyway, of what a shelf would actually would be in part of your layout. Well, how does someone create a shelf? Well, you've got to make a track plan and follow it. You can't express that any more than, you know, beating on the walls and the doors and the table to get my point across. Make a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's going to stink. You know, when you put something up there and going, you know, this isn't going to work out. So if you're going to put something up near the ceiling, you know, down, you know, table level or a little bit higher, you know, what do I want to have? Do I want one table level high? Do I want a couple shelves high? Do I want a third shelf up there for lights and stuff? So make a plan, and you really got to make a good plan because it's probably going to be permanent for quite a while. So the next thing is, depending on that plan, keep in mind the maximum width of that shelf. You know, if you make something that's too wide, it's going to have too much weight, and you may have to have more sturdier bracketing or mounting hardware to keep it from bending and falling down, especially if you lean on it, because that's all going to determine, you know, how you make your shelf. Look at your budget. Get prices on materials, you know, needed for your design. You know, see what's out there, see what you want to use. How do I want to cover it up if I want to cover it up? If it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. I mean, it's your railroad, but look at how much money you have to spend on this shelf, because this is going to be one of the first major hurdles in making a layout, is putting something together to have a layout. Plan ahead. You know, I'm beating on the table for this. I mean, you gotta have a plan. Make sure this is what you want others to see when they're looking at your layout. You know, if you have visitors come by, says, okay, you know, I'm planning on having, you know, operating sessions and everything else, but my guys can't see through the shelf that I put right in front of their eyes down to the floor level where the trains are at, and they have to duck down or kneel, or so, okay, now I can see what I'm doing. You know, did you plan enough ahead of time for all those other little factors? You know, do you need to put stools in to get people who are shorter than you to see what's going on, and vice versa? So plan where you want to put that shelf, what height it is, how wide it is. Do you have space to move around in between your walls? You know, you have a 10-foot wide room. You can't put a 4-foot shelf in on all sides around there. You won't have much room to work. You know, look pretty stupid too, probably, but you only have like 1.5 feet of space to walk in between your layout. So try and keep it minimum. I would say no more than 2 feet for an HO for a shelf layout. You know, especially if it's more of a switching area or whatever, you got to be able to reach across it. You know, get to the wall. You know, if you can't reach all the way across it and touch the wall without your armpit scrolling across the top of the table, it's probably too wide. Or you got to get a ladder and you got to really bend at the waist to reach far in the corner to get to anything. So those are my biggest concerns when you make a shelf, is can you access every single square inch of it without destroying something? Let's see. will you cover up the hardware? You know, if you put a bracket in there and it's not very pleasant to look at, does it matter to you? Do you want to cover it up? Do you want it to look really nice and clean and neat and professional looking? Or does it just matter, I just putting something up? You know, I'm in the garage, I could care less. Just put some brackets on the wall and let's get it going. Some people are like that. Some people want it museum size. Besides, will it be ugly? Is it going to cause problems with your wife and the spouse going, you know, I really don't want that in my house. That's never going to look right, you know, and you're going to tear it down. You're going to start all over again. So that's part of the plan ahead aspect of it. Real it is. I've had a couple battles with my wife on my own little layout. You know, I was like, yeah, I really want to do this. You better make it look good. And that was the biggest hurdle. It's like, okay, yeah, got to compromise, or you ain't gonna have a layout, especially with your significant other. Now, is your table design going to be too weak to hold that table? You know, for your brackets, you're going to use, you know, plastic brackets. That ain't going to work when you got a shelf like Jim has, where he's got 1x12 up there with 1x4s, and it's really, really heavy, and you know, he doesn't have something up there that would really hold it. So if you don't have a plan to make it stable, you're going to have problems, and you're going to go, well, I got to figure out how to keep this thing from falling down. So make sure it's going to be strong enough to hold the weight of whatever you're going to put on it, including your trains and your scenery and everything else that you put on there. And you're probably leaning on it as well at times to do things. Does it really need to hold your weight and walk around on? Don't overbuild. You know, that a lot of people will overbuild their stuff and going, well, yeah, I didn't need to actually walk on it and make it a subfloor in my house, you know. But, you know, if I'm putting live steam on there, sure, you know, but who's going to do that in their house? Not me. And do you have time to make it look museum quality if you want it that good? You know, how much time do you really have? Are you going to use some sort of construction method that will make it go faster and look really nice and clean? Sure, there are ways to do that. And I'll show you some of those today. Will it block the viewing and working angles? Like I said before, if you can't see through that shelf that you put up over your table or your other shelf, you know, you put things too close together, you know, does it stick out too far? Should it be stuck back in a ways and not be as close to the edge? You get more viewing angle that way. And all sorts of other stuff that you could use to plan around. You know, most of it is space. A lot of it is weight and how much construction material and time you want to put into it. I like to go simple and strong, you know. The next aspect we're going to go through is these design types of how to mount your shelf to the wall. Is it going to be attached to the wall forever? You know, do you want to be able to take that shelf down at some point in time? How permanent do you want to make it? Do you want to destroy it when you take it down, or do you want to, you know, take it down in pieces every once in a while, work on it somewhere else, put it back up? You know, there's a wide variety of choices. Like the removable sections. I've got removable sections in mine that I can take some pieces down and put track on them, scenery, put it back up, plug it all back in, and run the trains. So the shelf table material. Could somebody mute their mics? I'm getting an echo. Okay, shelf table material. Most people use pine wood. You can use oak and maple wood. A lot of uh, plywood is made out of maple, the real good stuff, because it doesn't have a lot of moisture expansion and contraction, and it looks nice, but it's very expensive. And of course, you could use oak too if you want, but it's really hardwood. The plywood, if you're using plywood, uh, use the thick stuff. If you're going for really high quality tables or shelf building material, it doesn't warp. Um, and if you're getting that really cheap, bottom of the line quality pine wood or something like that, you got knots in it and everything else, that tends to warp pretty easily. So you're gonna have to brace it a lot, and you may not end up keeping it later on because it'll probably fall apart, not look right. But so it all depends on what you really want to spend. You can also use extruded foam. A lot of people use the pink and the blue foam by Dow's Corning, and that has been used a lot in people's layouts for just their table. Everything is mounted to the foam, and that makes it a lot lighter, and it's customizable to fit wherever you want it to fit. Just cut it and make it fit, and you can shape it to whatever you need to make it fit the area, the scenery, as well as part of your table.
Now, Bob, I noticed in a couple of your videos or your pictures that you've posted,
Mm-hmm.
you've been experimenting with that one right there, haven't you?
Yes. I'm currently making my trestle going to be mounted on a section of pink foam, and I built up some other pieces of foam in there to make a kind of a little mountainside with a waterfall going into a stream and running underneath the trestle. And that's going to be sitting there right above the door, and the train's going to come out from the hallway in the return air duct space that's above the hallway and come into that room going across the trestle and around the corner. And so I'll show you some pictures of that stuff later, but it's one of those substances that I'm starting to really like for making my shelving. I'm using 2-inch thick, so it doesn't have a lot of flexibility, so it's strong for going from one bracket to the next bracket without causing a problem. I don't have to put a lot of holes in the wall to keep it up there. But that's a very popular material.
Now, Bob, the 2-inch foam, what's the maximum or minimum, or maximum, what's the maximum spacing between shelf brackets if you're using 2-inch foam for, say, HO, where you're not going to get any sag?
For HO, with 2-inch foam, I would say, depends on how many trains are on that section, you could probably go 3 to 4 feet. If you just got one set of tracks up there, it should hold it just fine. You start putting a lot of extra weight on there, you may want to go on every other stud, which is about 32 inches. So it kind of depends on what you have up there and how much weight. Now, if you add some sort of backboard on the back of the foam, something to stiffen it up, give you a 90-degree angle, that's going to be solid. You could go 6 feet probably if you have a nice solid angle all the way across there. It's pretty robust.
So if I went every 24 inches with a bracket, with 2-inch foam, nothing underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't get any bowing.
Right. Shouldn't. I mean, try it first, of course, but I've never tested that.
Well, I'm thinking just maybe 8-inch wide
Mm-hmm.
shelf, 2-inch foam, HO, one line going on it.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
that'd work.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Another material that people use for their stuff is Homosote fiberboard. I wouldn't really use it too much for your shelf unless you really are using like an open skeleton kind of framework for your baseboard, where you're raising up uh, your track to different levels, and you want to make things curvy and stuff, and make it nice and quiet. And usually, I've seen a lot of people use Homosote for HO. I wouldn't use it for N scale. You can use it for heavier stuff. It's pretty solid, and pretty much you don't even need road bed down on it, because you can kind of make it shaped just to the size of the road bed and put an angle on it, and then the rest of it you have some sort of scenery, like newspaper and your plaster of Paris, whatever you want to put along the side of that road bed, and make whatever scenery you want from that. But it's pretty heavy, and it's dirty, makes a lot of mess when you cut it. So it's really not the best item, I would say, for a shelf layout. I'd probably pretty much stick with foam or some thin wood. The next one you could use is also MDF board. I've got a piece of MDF board on my layout because it just kind of fit the space I needed. It's not too flexible, which is good. It can be thin, but it does kind of break apart. If you get it wet, throw it away. It's just going to dissolve. Or you can use a closet door or one of those hollow core doors. I've seen a lot of people use those to put a shelf up. If you got a lot of old doors around, or you just go down and go to a trash bin at some old house that they're remodeling or somewhere, and they may even have some old doors just being thrown out, you can use those. You can pull off the skin if you need to and replace it with another piece of the inside of it with just foam or something. You at least have a frame, and it's lightweight. Or you just cover it up with some other thin board, like for your fascia. And anything else you can think of. I've thought of actually using plexiglass for some of my shelving, so you can see my train right through it from below. And but that's expensive too, and you got to use special tools to cut it sometimes, and so it's something in the back of my mind I might try someday in one area of my layout. So anything you can think of, you can make a shelf out of. Try it. We'd all love to see it. Mounting hardware. So this one here is probably the most popular, the commercial shelving brackets. Usually those big white long brackets, double wide, they hook into a track that's mounted on the wall, and you just lay shelves across it. A lot of people use this form of mounting hardware in their shelf layouts. Sometimes they just even buy a wood bracket that's just been made, little tiny decorative brackets. Depends on how big their shelf is going to be. Put a couple screws on the wall, hang the wood bracket up there, and away they go. But most people buy some sort of commercial shelving hardware from Lowe's and Home Depot and whatnot. Another one is custom make your own custom brackets. You know, I've got some custom brackets. I went down to Menards and found some wooden brackets that were made in China. And I said, you know, if China can de-engineer our stuff, I can de-engineer their stuff. So I decided I'm going to make my own brackets. So I copied their design. It's a little bit thicker, but I didn't care. I just wanted some brackets on the wall. So I made my own brackets and custom made them to fit in some cases. I had to make them a little shorter to get around certain areas. So chances are you're going to have to make your own brackets in some cases. You know, I may change what I'm doing with mine and use a different mounting system altogether. I have some areas that use just something screwed to the wall without any brackets. You take the tabletop, you build your tabletop, and you know, say it's a 2x4 or actually a 1x4 foot table, and just screw it to the wall. You know, and you might be put it in a corner, and you screw another one in the corner to keep the leverage from pulling it down. It's still screwed to the wall. Doesn't have any ugly brackets underneath it. You can cover up whatever you want underneath it. Put lights in there, and you know, or some sort of a fascia block or something to kind of cover up the hole underneath. You know, there's a wide variety of things, but some people do just screw them to the wall. We have somebody in this hangout right now who did that as well. I've done it on my layout. Yeah, just different way of doing it. I'll show you some pictures here later. Another area that I want to try and get into is that bracketless floating shelf hardware. I don't know if you've seen that, but you look at a shelf and it's like glued to the wall. And there's like, how the heck did they mount this thing? It's completely solid. There's no screws or nothing. How did they put this thing on the wall? That I'd like to see. I've seen somebody doing that with their ceiling shelf layout. They put some floating shelves up on the wall and your train's running up there. It's like, how the heck did they mount it? You get up on top, there's no mounting hardware on top. It's like, how is it just staying there? You know, but bracketless floating hardware for your shelf is an interesting concept that I'm thinking about doing on some of mine as well. Or you can suspend your shelf from the ceiling. Some people do that, and also mount it kind of above the track, so it kind of looks like it doesn't have any kind of support as well. Usually use a 90-degree angle bracket, just mount it to the wall and attach to the table and let it go. Mount your trains. So let's get into some of what I've been talking about here. Your commercial shelving. This one here is probably your typical look that you would have. You got your regular bracket mounted to a strip that goes up the wall. You can have, 3 or 4 different levels of shelving on there. Typically you buy these things and put boards across them and put a bunch of books and stuff like that on them. Same stuff. What they did here was they put those in and took their tabletop, built it, and mounted it to the wall with like one screw every once in a while, and then also mounted a spacer or like a runner shim along all of them and mounted right through the bracket into the bottom of the table framing. And that'll keep it from moving for quite a while. And that's all that's supporting it. It looks pretty clean. You can use fascia, backdrop, whatever you want to hide all that stuff if you don't want people to see it. And that's just one way of doing a shelf from underneath. Another one is kind of this way, where they mounted some wood to the actual bracket. And I'm not sure what they're doing on top of this. I didn't see any other pictures that showed the next step, but they could be just putting some wood across the top of that, or some foam and gluing it down to the strip. Something simple. It's lightweight, and that may work for them. There's different applications you can do with the commercial shelving. Homemade custom brackets. Now this guy made this huge bracket. He's making something that's going to be really heavy mounted on this bracket. It's laying on its back, but it's a typical heavy-duty bracket. Put a bolt through it, two pieces of wood around a 2x2s, and yeah, that's probably made to actually probably climb up on top of the shelf if they had to. Or probably hold some really heavy table hardware that they're making. Another one that I've seen was one guy made a custom shelf bracket out of metal. He made a little form and drilled some holes and probably did some little spot welding, and it came out looking like that. Painted it all up, and then he just mounted that to the wall and kind of bracketed it all together. I don't know, maybe he likes steel, but I don't know if he needed to do that unless he's got some really heavy stuff that he's putting on his shelf. He's not building a shelf for his garage, he's building a layout. Some of this stuff can be used for many applications, a shelf in your garage, for instance, to put tools on and everything else, and storage. Homemade custom brackets. Here's another kind. It's called the French cleat. And I would say use that for some lightweight applications. You want to hide how you mount it up there if you want to take it down and work on it easily. And this is what a French cleat looks like. They basically took a piece of probably 1x4, maybe 1x6, cut it in half at 45-degree angles lengthwise. Make sure you cut against the grain, not with the grain, because this little lip here will just break right off if you put too much weight on it. Get some hardwood. You put some maple in there, or maybe a piece of oak. You mount one end to the wall and the other end to your shelf, and you just hang it up there. And here's a drawing of that design. As you can see, they mounted the cleat right to their shelf table that they had made. Got some foam on top. Got a backdrop through there. It's all kind of screwed together. Just set it up on top. If you need some extra support, put some angle iron brackets underneath of it. Support it if you really need to. But it's one way to just put something up and put it in place and be able to take it down easily. I'm not sure if anybody really does that a lot, but apparently this guy did it. Now you got ceiling suspended examples. Okay, why did it stop? Here we go. So this guy mounted his layout on the ceiling, made some special brackets to run his train up on the ceiling. And then along the wall, he has some 90-degree brackets that kind of hold the table from above, so the train track can go right along the wall. And it's not really a shelf layout, but it's an alternative layout, let's just say. Now this one's kind of like my own layout, where it's bracketed and put up near the ceiling on a shelf. This one's a really nice layout design here. I'm not sure how they hooked it up on top to make it so level, but they might be using some custom shelving that they kind of made it look so it doesn't bend and warp and stuff. I've had troubles with just plain lumber keeping a straight piece. But this is a really nice example of a shelf layout up on the ceiling anyway, just using simple brackets. And then we get into that floating shelf design. I got these from a website called preparingforpeanut.com. This isn't actually for a layout, but it's in a kitchen. But as you can see, they took a really heavy-duty bracket, 90-degree bracket, put their shelf on top of it, and sunk it into the drywall to hide it. After that, they just drywalled over the top of it, mudded it over, so you can't see where the bracket is at all. And they got 3 shelves. And then they take and make their frame on the outside of it to fit over the top of this shelf. They just slide it into place over the top, and everything's hidden. And that's how you get a floating shelf. That's a heavy-duty one, though. But let's try something a little bit smaller. This is one aspect of how they make some of these floating shelves. They just put these pegs, mount the pegs on the wall, and depending on what you're mounting on there, it could be a solid board where you drilled holes already in advance and it just slides on over the top of it, or it could be a box like that last example was, where it just slides over the whole piece. There's quite a bunch of different commercial products out there that have different ways of doing this, but it's pretty much the same way, where they just kind of hide the bracket on the inside of the shelf. And you've got different kinds of brackets. This one here, I think you can actually unscrew the post and mount it back in. There's a few that are kind of like that as well. And you just slide that board right over the top of it. This one here is made to fit that particular board. This one's easy to make it level because, well, all you have to do is make it level and it's already matched to fit the holes for that piece of wood. Now I was thinking about doing the same thing with the 2-inch foam. So I was going to get some of these single brackets, drill a hole into the foam, and slide the bracket in there, put it up on the wall, kind of put some double stick tape on the back of the bracket, pull the shelf off the bracket so I mark where I need to put my holes and mount them in there, and away I go. I now have a floating foam shelf for my layout. Now here's some examples of what it could look like. Now this one here looks pretty clean. You can't even see any brackets at all. And you can see that you have to stand up to see everything. It's right in a good viewing area, but probably only for people that are a certain height. But everything's maneuverable. You can put some stools in there for kids and everything else. But it looks nice and clean. You got a nice fascia there. It's covering up the brackets. Not sure how they put it up there. You know, they could have made some custom brackets that are just hidden inside, underneath behind the fascia, right underneath the table, and strewn all the way across that. Same thing with up on top. They could be having custom brackets and the whole backdrop is covered, covering up the hardware. but that looks pretty clean. Here's another example. You can see here they have some heavy-duty brackets underneath the table. It's going to be probably easy to hide this with a fascia that's going to be put on the front side there. They got some nailing boards up here, and then you can also hide it with, maybe a skirt that goes down to the floor as well. The upper shelf looks like it's mostly going to be maybe a storage shelf or made just for lighting, because you have the brackets up on top. It's not really a good model railroading design there, so most likely just going to be lighting and storage. But you can see that's an interesting way of doing it. Maybe a little overkill for the size of bracket for what he's using, but he's probably using what he had. Sometimes you redo stuff and reuse what you had from something else. Here's an example of some shelving with the foam, just the foam, and some plywood in some cases. The ones on the left-hand side don't have any plywood underneath, it's just the foam. On the right-hand side, they just painted over the brackets, kind of made it look like it's part of the backdrop. That works just fine. But you can see it's all custom shaped to make it fit around the room. And it also has a table down here. You can see the table legs and the workbenches and the shelving unit. You have a wide variety of options here in this one. I'm not sure how wide this space is, so I'm not sure if they had a consideration on that or just enough for one person to get by without breaking something, I hope. And you also have this style. You got the skirting under to hide all your brackets. On the top shelf you have, you don't see any brackets. They're probably hidden behind the whole backdrop itself if they use those 90-degree ones. It's kind of hard to see if they did or not, which is good. You don't want people to see the mystery behind the curtain, or the man behind the curtain. It's a little magic act with model railroaders sometimes to hide the stuff they don't want people to see. Now here's an option. This is probably the most popular method that I've seen out there, and that's using that metal bracket and to use that metal bracket to hide the metal bracket itself by covering it up with your fascia, and there's a board on the bottom that's mounted there. The bracket itself is supporting the stuff that's hiding it. So they ran a 2x4 along the wall, attached the bracket onto it with the bracket hardware, and then they put a bolt down through the bracket into, in this case, 3/4 inch plywood, and also attached it to the 2x4. And it basically, the bracket is hanging that other end of the board. And on that board, they attach the fascia and a lamp, and then they've got the foam on top of that, laying on top of the brackets. So everything, the whole bracket is basically, and it's actually not basically, it's just hidden. You can't see it. They also did kind of the same thing on the top shelf, where it's just sort of a view break, and they may put a light in there, but there's nothing on top of it, and they just mounted it the same way as the middle shelf. And the bottom shelf, they did the same thing, but they also put in two layers of 2-inch foam plus a layer of 3/4 inch foam on top of that. Fills in all the gaps in between the shelving. Makes it nice and rigid and doesn't shake back and forth. I found this at the Model Railroad Hobbyist.com. It was on one of the forums that they had on shelf layouts. And so if you want to take a look at those, there's a lot of resources out there for these kind of things. This is how they built that. You can see the 2x4 and then the brackets that they mounted on there. Got 3 layers, everything's nice and straight. So they can put a helix to get up to the second level. Everything's planned out. It's going to look really nice. And this is the next step. This is what it kind of turns out looking like midway. They don't have any foam in between here yet. Got lighting up above, lighting down below. Looks really well lit to cover up the helix. It's moving along pretty good. And then this is what the last picture that they showed on it. Got scenery on there. It's all well lit. Everything's hidden. And it's going to end up looking very nice. They got all the foam covering up all the bracing. Even can cut in all your gullies and rivers and everything else into the foam because, well, all it is just foam and fascia. You can make whatever you want out of your shelf because you have that space already built in. And this is what I did in mine. Now, it's not as pretty. I'll take any criticism you can give me. I don't care. But I call this mostly an experimental project anyway, just to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And this one, I have the brackets. I had to chop off that bracket that I'd made so it would fit right above the closet trim. I can use it a 1x6 and 1/4 inch plywood right here. I also have this little tiny piece right here that I should have cut out of the 1x6 before I put everything together, but I didn't. I cut it too short. I thought, oh, I'll just butt it up. It'll be fine. No, it wasn't fine. So put some dowels in there and kind of made a little shelf to attach the plywood to it and keep it tight. So it was at least nice and at least mostly level for the track going above it. And then I also have a board that's underneath there that's attached to the plywood, and this part to the left goes underneath, or goes right across the doorway into the room. So I kind of had to make my own little bracket and framework structure there to fit the space. Here's a close-up of that bracket. It's not as pretty as the Chinese one, you know. I guess I'm not that good. You know, I don't have the little hands or something, but I cut a notch in the wood and fit it up against the wall over the top of the bracket. And then I can screw in from the front to hold down the whole shelf. This is a corner piece, and I put some boards across the top and mounted those to the wall. And I took and cut my corner out of a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. I probably should have gone with some thicker plywood to match the thicker boards, but I was thinking I'll just do everything in 1/4 inch plywood, make it nice and thin. It's only N scale, not a lot of weight on it. But this is another project that probably will end up getting replaced at some point in time with a better plan. One that I did not plan out well enough, I guess. This is the next room. I decided to kind of take the same structure, but I painted it. You know, so I moved up a little bit in my process. And also I've got a bus wire running across the top, so I can take down each section and by just unplugging the track from the bus line, and the whole thing can come off. once I disconnect my jumper tracks in between sections. And of course I got a popsicle bridge. And the popsicle bridge is, if you've seen my videos on it, it was kind of it was a fun project to make, and it's pretty strong. But I had to bridge a 4-foot gap across this area without any kind of suspension from above. And so that's kind of what I had to do. Made some custom shelving to bridge that gap. Now here's some styrofoam. This is in the other room. This is the jungle room, as we like to call it here in the Mancave household. But yeah, this isn't the trestle one. But this is the trestle is going to go to the left side of this. This is going to be coming back around the room and going out through that space. But as you can see, I took some 2-inch foam. I actually shaved down a piece of 2-inch foam to about maybe 1 inch, and then put another thick 2-inch piece up on top. Kind of make a little styrofoam sandwich. And then on the right-hand side, right here, I'm going to connect another piece of foam that's going to go off to the right, and I just notched in some notches, made sort of like a tongue and groove kind of thing with the foam, so I can slide that piece in and out, and it's self-supporting. So I also had to cut a little bit of the foam out to sit on top of this bracket, and that basically keeps it from moving right and left when the other piece isn't in there.
Hey, Bob, why so thick? Are you going to do something with the thickness of the foam that's there, or?
Yes. Okay. I went thick because there's a picture of a train going alongside of a granite mountainside that I have. I can't find it at the moment, but the train, they basically dynamited off a shelf out of this granite, just wide enough for a train track to go along. And on one side of it is just a drop off into a lake. And so on top of that, this pink shelf here will be where the train track will run, and this will represent the drop off portion of it. And it's just like a sheer drop off into rocks and a lake, and a sheer granite wall going up the other side of it, which I haven't put up above that yet. So that's why I'm doing that.
Cool.
And then that section's going to go all the way over here to this other shelf, and I had to mount this shelf to the bottom of this brace, this bracket that I had to make, so that it would line up with a stud, because it just wasn't going to line up. So I have 2 screws, one on each end, lining up to the stud, and I can just unscrew from the bottom and take this whole shelf bridge out. This particular one goes across just like the popsicle bridge does, goes around across the corner of a room, because I've got a fake tree right in the middle of it, and with a bunch of branches and stuff, and there's a TV below here that mounted in the tree. So it's a neat little room, and I'll have the train going through that bridge, through the branches, and actually I'm going to try and put a plexiglass tube over the top of this bridge to cover it all up from all the elements, and so the branches don't knock things off the track and stuff like that, all the leaves. And so here we are. Questions and discussion on what we got. That's been the first hour. I'd like to open it up to the floor for anybody who's got any questions, comments,
well, this would probably
examples.
This would probably be a good time to take our little intermission.
Okay.
Once again, I want to welcome everybody to the Tuesday night presentation with Bob here. He's been discussing shelf style layouts He builds one. He's building one in his house.
Yep.
I think it's going to end up taking his whole house.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyways, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight and coming and checking out the show. Then I want to remind everybody about the YouTube big build that we got going on right now. Eric Hall is the host of it. He is from IMRROCOM. Go check him out on YouTube. He's got some pretty cool ideas. He's got a cool in scale. I know that he hasn't been doing much here lately. But anyways, he's got a couple videos on the big build, and go there and watch them, and it'll explain all your questions, I think, about the big build that we're going to be having. And tonight's presentation is sponsored by YouTube Model Builders from the website YouTubeModelBuilders.com, and the eMag, the Hangouts, of course, and the monthly live show. The July issue of the eMag is out right now. If you want to sign up and register to get it, go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com, go to the eMag section of the link to sign up for the you'll get an email with the link that can take you straightly right to the eMag subscription, and you can read it from there, download it, and whatever. Then the monthly, the eMag 2 is bi-monthly, so it's July. The next one will be September. The monthly live show with Big Bill Graham. I better go ahead and announce his name, of course. And Barry Razoo. Barry and I covered for the last, for the July show, because Big Bill was out and about. I think he wanted to take a vacation, which I don't blame him. But once again, don't forget about all that. And, you know, these presentations are for anybody. You know, you guys can go ahead and post things. You know, another thing about the eMag, you know, JD's always looking for people to put in write-ups for the eMag. JD's and his team are doing an exceptional job to get this free magazine out to you guys. And I think this is the third month, JD? The fourth?
Fourth.
Okay, the fourth month. And so he's worked really hard. He's got a lot of new guys on his team now, and I think that they've done an exceptional job on this July issue. A lot of good information in there. So, but all of you viewers, while you're viewing, you know, you guys can go ahead. It's kind of weird to get the Q&A to pop up on the YouTube site, but if you go to the G Plus site, it's all right there once you click on the link. But anyways, if you have any questions, just type in the Q&A, and I will read them out. Or if Bob sees them, then he can answer at the same time. JD, did you want to talk about anything about the new upcoming eMag for September?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that, Dude. For the upcoming September issue, we're going to be looking back at custom building and weathering, and pick up where May's issue left off on that. So it's a similar theme to May, just that we wanted to do the July on Young Modelers as a special edition. And then, so looking for articles definitely for that. If you're building even any kind of shelf layout type of strategy that you're deploying that Bob talked about, you know, certainly that can be an article as well. Just some ideas around that. And anything on weathering, anything on custom building, locos, custom pieces, structures that you're building. Maybe you want to write about your participation in the contest. So what are you building for the contest? A little write-up about that. That's just as good too. So that's for the September issue. The sooner you can get that out, that'd be great. If you need any help with any kind of outline or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to help. And then in November, one of the special things we're looking for is pictures of your track plan, your diagrams. Like to put together a full-page pictures of each of the track plans as a special insert to the magazine. So I'll have more information posted out there shortly.
Thanks, JD.
Thank you, dude.
So I think I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Bob. So far, I think the presentation's been pretty good.
Well, thanks.
So,
on one note, I don't think my track plan will fit in your magazine. I can't even print the thing out. It's just so huge.
We'll just have to give you a special issue all by yourself there, Bob.
Yeah, it'd be a full, I don't know, it's a good sized picture there, and it's zoomed way out.
Magnifying glass not included.
Yeah. Put it in a PDF or something like that so you can zoom in on it. And
yeah.
But yeah, I have to do it in sections. I said, okay, here's a picture of this, picture of that. But yeah, since my layout, the plan is to go through the whole house upstairs, going into each room except the kitchen. I'm not going to go through the kitchen this time, but so yeah, I'm in stage 2 right now, just going into 3 different bedrooms, and then from there it'll go through a wall and out into the living room. Let's see, go out there, hang a right, go into across the dining room, take a left, go down into the other dining room, living room, fireplace room, across that, back the other way, hang a right, go into the other big living room, around that one, come back down the same track, the wall anyway, back into the fireplace room, go back the other way, and backtrack its way back into the bedroom through the wall. So it's going to have about 9 scale miles of track.
Is this single track or double track?
Single. But
So
it's going to look like a, yeah.
So you've got you're going to have reverse loops then?
No, it's actually no reverse loops. It's just going to look like you have reverse. But it's going to be double track in the fireplace room area, because depending on which way it's coming in, we'll be traveling a different direction. And then on one wall, I'll have triple track. So that could be interesting. I got bridges planned, all sorts of stuff. In my mind, I don't know if it's going to work out, but we'll see. That's why I kind of want to use some of these alternative construction methods, because I find it interesting to try and work with something like that, especially the plexiglass. I want to try at least a section of wall that just has plexiglass on it, and all the track mounted to that.
So now you did your popsicle bridge because of the it can stand weight, or did you build it out of something else and then build the popsicle sticks around it?
No, I pretty much wanted to span a 4-foot space without any kind of bracing other than its own self. Just like a regular span would do. You put it in, it's sitting on one end and sitting on the other, and all the weight that goes down through the middle, and it just wasn't going to move. So I'd made out of popsicle sticks. It was actually an overkill for the construction. I could probably run an O scale, a real nice heavy O scale across that thing if I made it wide enough, because I could stand on it and the thing wouldn't move. So I was like, yeah, I think I made it a little bit too strong, but it looks nice. It's probably HO scale, really.
No, it looks good. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was different.
Mm-hmm.
So did you eat all of those popsicles, or did you cheat and go and buy them?
I cheated. I went down to Hobby Lobby and bought 1,000 popsicle sticks for $5.99, and that's what I made it out of. I did go and get some basswood strips for the very top decking, and then from there I put all my popsicle sticks on those. Glued it to that.
You froze up, brother.
Yeah, I was just going to tell him.
But anyway, yeah, my camera likes to do that. It's Windows 8.1.
I've got a question for you, Bob.
Yep.
I know. Okay, there's advantage to having a shelf layout like you're doing. Okay, because of the room that you are not taking up as far as you would on a layout on a floor lower. But are you restricted as far as your detailing goes, as far as like the mountains, the buildings, the background drops, you know what I'm saying, the trees and stuff?
Yeah. You're being up near the ceiling, you are going to have a natural view block. You know, the whole bottom of the shelf is blocking your view of any scenery. So it depends on what kind of scenery you want to really see. And what I'm planning on doing is on stuff I really want to see is mount that higher up. So you get more of the building, or maybe just the top of the building, and you kind of see those kind of things, or maybe a mountainside. But if I do any detail stuff up there, it's usually going to be for one of those cameras that I mount on the train or something like that and run it around the layout so I can see what it looks like from the cab or something. That's when the detail would really come into play.
Because I know I've seen a lot of gentlemen doing upper shelf level layouts because of the room. As far as the family, the wife, you know, saying, "Oh, you ain't gonna have no big layout," you know. Well, honey, what if I do it up here? It's out of the way. But like I said, it's a 50-50 shot, I guess you'd say, as far as what you'd want.
Yeah, there's an advantage and a disadvantage, you know. It depends on what you really want to live with the most. I'd rather have trains running around my room. You know, I could care less if it really can see it sometimes. I just want to hear it, you know. So I can see, yeah, there it goes. It's like, okay, it's still running. That's great. It's not on the floor somewhere. You know, that's the biggest, you know, concern.
Yeah, that would be a major drop.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you are, you know, that the money that you are saving on your scenery, as far as your trees, your building, you can put towards your trains and your track.
Right. You know, the trestle that I'm making is probably my most detailed scenery I probably have ever done. I've never built a trestle before from scratch, so this is a learning experience for me, and it's turning out acceptable. It's not perfect, but there are a lot of trestles out there that are falling apart anyway, and they don't look perfect. So this will kind of look like it's on its last leg, and I'm modeling a last leg of a trestle, you know. You know, whatever, I can call it whatever I want it to, depending on the condition it is. You know, it's my railroad. You know, it's my little story. But, you know, it's going to have the most detail so far anyway. It's, you know, I'm going to try some, you know, realistic water and, you know, making my own trees, painting the, you know, the styrofoam and making it look right, and putting all the bushes in and rocks and whatnot, the stuff you would expect to see at in that kind of scene out in reality. So, you know, it's going to be low enough because it's going to be right there mounted to the top of the frame of the door as you walk in. So you got the trim right above the door frame, and then 2 inches above that is where the trestle starts in the whole scene. So it's really probably a good 5-6 inches, or maybe more like 5.5 inches lower than the rest of the shelving. So you can actually see a little bit more into it, and that's kind of why I'm doing it that way.
Cool.
So I can see that.
That'd be looking good.
Bob, we got a question from Dave Parsons. Hi, Bob. you may have already covered this. I haven't. After you had stated talking, how will you watch the progress of the trains as it travels through each room?
Yeah, that's always a question that I'm constantly thinking about. I'm thinking about purchasing an NCE DCC system that's wireless, so I can have the remote, walk around the house, and, see the train, do whatever I need to with the remote. Should have enough range to go the 80, 90 feet that I have of my layout, so shouldn't be a problem in this environment. So that's how I kind of plan on doing it initially. Who knows, I may get some sort of closed circuit TV, little cameras, and mount them in certain areas, and have a section off to the side here at my computer, and I can see where the train's at and what's going on. I was planning in my mind, I don't know about my pocketbook, on all sorts of transponding and signals and stuff like that, telling me, hey, it's photo sensor says the train went across me and it's good to go, and it's in this block on the track, and my JMRI or something like that will tell me where it's at. That's way down the road, but who knows? I may end up doing that someday.
How about a Wi-Fi wireless camera on the train itself? Then you just got one monitor. Yeah.
Yep. Whatever technology's out there, I might try it. I really would like a Wi-Fi or some sort of wireless thing that actually has sound and everything else transmitting back to, my computer screen or something. I know I can put my GoPro on the train, not the N-scale, but HO would work. But right now they came out with a brand new GoPro that's like an ice cube. It's like maybe an inch square, and you can mount that easily on your railroad flat cars, and that's wireless. And so it goes right to your phone, and you can monitor what you're seeing through the phone. So that's another way to do it. Thinking about getting one of those. It's about $499 though. Yeah, that's a good question.
That's the 4 black, or what is it called?
Forgot what it's called. It's like a sport or something.
Yeah.
Looking it up right now. Oh, it's Session. The Shot Hero 4 Session. That's what it's called. Saw some videos on it. It's pretty neat. Can hide it anywhere.
Yeah, it's small.
Yep. Well, has anybody got any other shelving ideas that they may have tried in the past and failed? Had to rebuild it to something else?
I was going to bring it up when you I just wanted to go ahead and let you finish your whatchamacallit, your presentation, but my first layout I did, it was a bench style layout, but then the upper deck was I brought all thread down from the ceiling with adjustable what are those adjustable
nuts?
Yeah, they're long so that you could screw an eyelet or the all thread on one side.
Oh, okay. Like a little adapter kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't think of what
Yeah.
it's called. So you could level it. I used that to level it out.
Oh, okay.
And then the
Much-
back part of the bench work was fastened to the wall.
Are you talking about something much like what they used to keep the old wooden screen doors in square?
Yeah,
Little turnbuckle?
turnbuckle.
Yeah,
That's what they are.
turnbuckle, man.
Yep.
Does that work out pretty good?
Yeah, it worked out great. I did never finish the upper deck. Well, I didn't really finish the lower deck because we moved out of the house. But yeah, it worked out great. I mean, I had a full-size yard up there, and it didn't swing by no means because the backside of the bench work was fastened to. I screwed a board to the studs lengthways, and then laid the bench work on top of that. And then the outside, of course, was supported with. And I only went maybe every 8 feet with a piece of all thread.
Yeah, pretty sturdy.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was going to have to do on this front bridge here, was all thread up to this ceiling. But I over-engineered my shelf to the point where I just didn't have to do anything. It's pretty much solid as it is, even though it's kind of free-floating around the corner there.
Well, it does add a sense of danger to your layout.
Yeah.
Every time someone says danger like that, I think of the Robbie the Robot. Danger. But yeah, my upper deck for my layout, of course, it's only, I think the widest part of it is 16 inches, and like I said, I only put 4 or 3 shelf brackings up in certain areas, just as a safety. I really didn't need to,
Right.
And but I didn't want to get up there and maybe put my weight on it or something, and it come crashing down.
Yeah. Those white metal brackets. I mean, they're great, but you put too much weight on them, and you're gonna risk bending them or just ripping that one section right there in the top off, and your bracket's gonna come right off. So they're good if you're not gonna put any weight on them, significant weight. Some, I'm not sure how much they're rated for, but they could be rated, probably pretty good, 100 pounds, but you don't want to test it, especially after you put it all up and it's like, oh, I'm just going to climb up on this.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not. Maybe for a little bit. But, yeah, it's if I do ever build something more permanent in the house, a little bit more realistic in height, I'll probably do that design that last example showed, where it was the brackets hidden inside and with the foam and everything like that. It looked really clean and looked really, museum quality kind of a feel to it, which is what everybody wants.
Yeah, the Spokane Club, their layout, their layout only has 3 legs. The rest of it's all self. And I've crawled underneath there and looked at the bench work, and I'm like, how does it hold? How does it stand up at all? Because it's like you look underneath there, and it's like, what's holding it up? Really? And
now you know.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I don't know because you crawl underneath there and all you see is, bench work and wiring, and some of it's hidden because they've put panels up in there to hide the wires, or and so.
Yep. It's part of that magic.
Yeah. I was hoping Chris Healy would be able to come on tonight because his layout is something like that, you know.
Mhm.
He don't have no legs on his neither.
Yeah.
And but
Hmm.
I think that's getting really popular.
hmm Especially if you have small space and you want to put, storage underneath it, and you're in a chair, you're moving around, you want to smack your knees on the table legs all the time, and you actually feel like you have more space if you have no legs in the way.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like a cleaner, lighter, easy thing to do, and it looks sort of normal to mount it on the wall. I kind of was alluding to, hey, does the wife like it? Well, it looks like a shelf. Sure, looks fine. Just wait till you see what I put on that shelf, though, honey. But yeah, it all depends on what your skill level is, your money in your bank account, the time you have to invest in it, how OCD are you to make it
Yeah.
completely perfectly straight or something, or every little detail. Sometimes you have to put them higher or lower. I saw one guy, he had a bunch of the shelves there, and he just picked the whole thing up, raised it up about 6 inches, locked it in its place, so he could work underneath it a little bit easier. And so he had a little bit more room so he could work underneath on the bottom shelf.
I
you
had
know.
some hidden staging, and then my main line went through the hidden staging area on the
Mhm.
back side of it.
Yep.
And there was one section of my layout that it was just as easy undo the section of track. I don't remember how I did it now. And then I brought a rope down from the ceiling and with a hook in the center of the layout, and
Yeah.
I would lift the whole corner of the layout up about a 3 foot by 4 foot section all the
Mhm.
way to the ceiling, and then I could work on the track or do whatever. There was an access underneath it where I can get to it, but it wasn't good enough access that I thought it would be. So I
Mhm.
made it so I could just lift the whole layout up and out of the way if I needed to work on anything.
Yeah, my first layout was an HO to put two 4x8 sheets of plywood into sort of an L shape. So one side had at least 12 feet of space, and then, well, in that little crux of that L, I had a yard, and it was a fold down yard and a fold back up yard. So basically, when I didn't want to use the yard, I just kicked the legs out from underneath it, which were on hinges, so they'd fold it under, and then the whole thing would just drop, and the legs would slide down underneath the table, and so it would just lay there. And I wired up the track, put two wires, one wire on each track, and jumpered it to get it across, because I was 16. But when I folded it up, the track lined up to the switch coming out of underneath a mountain on that side, and I'd put it in on the switching yard and do my switching, playing around with stuff, and send it back out on the main line, and it was all kind of hidden from view. It was all right there by the control panel, so I could do everything I needed to right there. So it was pretty neat. I got a picture somewhere.
I've got to agree with you on the planning, because if I would have planned better for my G shelf layout there, I wouldn't have used such a heavy framework. I could have dropped that down another 4 inches, made it a little bit more viewable and more room for scenery. Yeah, definitely got a plan.
Well, how heavy is a G scale train? per se.
Well, the engine's pretty heavy. I mean, compared to probably 3 or 4 HOs.
Okay.
You know, so. And then you got the cars. Cars ain't too heavy, I guess. I mean, they're just plastic.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess if you was weight them out to NMRA specs, that would make it a little bit different, but I don't have anything weighted yet, so.
No.
But I definitely other than the bridge coming across the freestanding area there, that I'm sure I probably needed the stoutness that I built it, but the 3 going around the walls, I think I really overdid it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's done. It's up there. It's not going anywhere for centuries to come.
No, you could add lights and that kind of stuff underneath it too, so it had dual purpose other than just a shelf for a train.
It did. And I got I've got outlet boxes underneath there to plug the lights into, and so I mean, yeah, give me a little room for stuff like that. But I wish I could have had it a little lower so I could scenic it a little bit better. But I had a second shelf for the HO, so I'm glad the bottom of the shelf's up where it's at. But yeah, lots of things I think I might have done different.
I like how you did the lighting and all that.
Yeah, and Ron Kleiss kind of killed my lighting ideas after seeing his layout, and but I've already got too much invested in these LED fluorescent bulbs, so I'm going to keep it like it is and maybe add some spotlighting. But I need to see where that second shelf for my HO is going to go and see how much that shelf blocks lighting down to the bottom layout bench. So I've got to get me some boards and attach them to the wall, and just so I can see what kind of shadows present themselves with that lighting that's up there underneath the G-scale shelf. So I didn't think about the lighting considerations when I started doing everything I did. So the fluorescent pictures were bought to hang from the ceiling, which everybody had seen around here in our hangouts had seen before. So they were good, but then once you got that G-scale shelf up there, well, now the lighting's in the way. You can't see the train going around. So, so everything was an afterthought. Everything was, When these guys come on and say, well, this is all I'm going to have. I'm not having anything different. Yeah, okay, whatever. We'll talk to you in 6 months and see where you're at.
Yeah. So you could put some fascia on there that's maybe 6 inches tall or something like that to mount from the top down to block the light, so you kind of get a bounce off the fascia up against the wall, and it won't be blinding you. Like when you're looking at this picture now, all I see is light.
Right.
Barely see the train. Yeah.
I'm going to put some fascia up there to help so you're not blinded off by those, but I'm worried about the shelf that's going to go below that and how much light that shelf. I'm trying to see if I have a piece of 6 inch in here. 6 or 8 inch board in here. I don't think I do, but
yeah, you got to make some planning decisions there on what you want to have going on that second shelf.
Let's see how wide this is. This is 5 inches. And if I have that there, see how much shadow I got below that shelf now?
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have to put another light on the bottom of that shelf to light your bottom shelf.
And I didn't want to do that. So that's if I put it right.
Cha-ching.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Stop it.
But it's really not that bad, though.
Right. It's right there. Casts a shadow right down to the edge of my layout, to the back wall there. So anything that's on the wall and up is going to be in shadow, but the actual layout itself is okay. If I bring it up to there, I'm about 6 inches up the wall in the shadow.
Mhm.
So, and I like that height right there. That's going to be really, so I might, but again, this is 5 inches. I want to go 6 to 8 inches, so I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, this is that 1 inch, and that definitely, I think, flexes too much.
Yeah, way too much.
So
Yeah, 2 inch. If you're not going to put any brackets underneath it, will stretch a pretty good span. But yeah, the thinner it is, of course, it's going to be more flexible.
right, and I don't mind if I've got the brackets every 4 inches if I have to, or 6 inches, because the plan is to put the brackets in an upright L position so that the bottom part of the bracket's actually going up the wall instead of down the wall, and then putting some kind of styrofoam mountain scenery to hide the brackets.
Jim,
So
hold
you
that
won't
phone back up.
hold the foam back up.
Yeah. How thick is that phone?
1
Or
inch.
1 inch. 1 inch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some scrap I had left over.
Yeah. That seems a lot more flexible than the pink foam that I have, which is 1 3/4, but it's only 1 3/4 in the center, except on the outer edges it's 1 inch. It's inverted L shape, and that's very, pretty stiff.
Well, and again, you've got 1 3/4 inches. I mean, this is there's 27. This is about a 3 foot piece.
Right.
And to bow it, I'm pushing up with my thumbs, If I come in further, I mean, that's not, that's quite a bit sturdier. I don't know, I'm sitting across the corner here. Yeah, it's still.
The stuff that I have is pretty stiff.
Yeah, my 2 inch pink foam, a section that I have is about 5 feet long, and it barely bows.
Yeah, I mean, 8-foot sections barely bowed.
Yeah.
Hardly.
Right. Well, the 2 inch might work for me, other than, well, I'd have to raise the shelf up an extra inch to make sure I kept my clearance below it for my lighting, because I really don't want to add more lights to the bottom. As you can see, I need to add lights to the top of that G scale shelf, because it's kind of in the shadows. I don't know if I want to try to backlight it or what I want to do. This is all a second afterthought, because it didn't, this whole G scale shelf was all of a sudden I've got to do it type thing. I don't know. But I really don't want to, I'm a cheapskate. I got $125, $130 and use 4 LED lights. So I don't want to spend another $100 on lights if I don't have to. I want to try to make
those rope lights.
Well, even those kind of get expensive when you start running close to 40 feet of them. They're not super cheap.
No, you can get a big long string for probably $60. It goes at least 20, 30 feet.
Right. So then I need 2 of those. So now you're at 120. Yeah.
Depending on where you get. Well, these are LED ones too. It's not the incandescents.
Right. I'm trying to do everything LED.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to figure it out. I don't know. I got plenty of time. I've got a lot of other stuff to do. So.
Wait until after Christmas and buy the LED Christmas lights when they go on sale and throw them up there in the back.
Yep.
Right. Well, and I want to go. You got to hide them. I'd have to. I guess I could maybe dig a channel into the foam to stick them up in there.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't want to do any kind of facade on the front of it, of the second shelf, because it's going to be so low close to the first shelf. So, yeah, I got some thinking. Like I said, I got plenty of time. I ain't even got the Helix built yet, and I know that's going to take me out next winter. So,
yep.
Unless
look how long it took me to do mine.
Well, I figured, dude, you've got enough time in yours. You're going to be taking vacation soon. I figure I can put you up in the garage and just ride a train over here and help me build a helix for 2 weeks of your vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to show me around too?
Oh man,
You
I'll
won't
take
have
you.
time.
Never mind. We're on the air. We'll talk about that when we're off the air.
You won't have time. You'll be building a helix. That's 24/7 right there.
Exactly.
Well, I don't see no more questions, Bob.
Yeah. Not sure how
I
many
think
people.
that was a really good presentation on. I think it gives everybody some good ideas on what to if they want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
The door's wide open. Whatever you can think of and dream to put together is how you can make it. you know, lots of options.
yes, sir. But so, anyways, I wanted to go ahead and thank everybody for coming and watching our Tuesday night presentation, and everybody that came on and viewed, and the panel. I think it was a really good presentation that Bob did for us. We will be doing next Tuesday presentation will be Barry and Mike, the tech show, and we'll see what they've got on their hands. And I want everybody to forget about the big build hosted by Eric Hall from imrro.com. Go to the YouTube Model Builders homepage, YouTubeModelBuilders.com homepage, and see all the details there. Or you go to Eric Hall's YouTube channel. He's got 2 videos on there explaining it fully in detail for the big build. And then our eMag that comes out there bi-monthly, our Tuesday and Thursday with Johnny Reb hangouts. The live shows monthly. This month's eMag is out right now, the July issue. If you guys want to participate in that, just get a hold of JD. Either email him, send in an article for the eMag, and be looking for all the good details that we have to offer for the YouTube Model Builders. So, and I want to thank everybody again for coming out, and I want to thank Bob. And until the next time.